The hospital room was filled with the kind of nervous energy that only the imminent arrival of a new life can produce. The fluorescent lights glared softly above, and the rhythmic beeping of monitors seemed to mark the steady but suspenseful passing of each moment. Emily's hand clutched Daniel's with desperate strength, her eyes squeezed shut as another wave of pain gripped her body. Daniel, standing by her side, whispered words of encouragement, though his own voice trembled with a mixture of fear and awe. This was their first child, the culmination of months of anticipation, anxiety, and dreams of a family they had always wanted to build. The doctors and nurses moved with quiet efficiency, their voices low but urgent. The air carried the thick, unmistakable tension of a room on the edge of transformation. Daniel had envisioned this day countless times, holding his child, kissing his wife's forehead, calling family members to share the joyous news. He imagined tears, laughter, exhaustion, and the overwhelming warmth of love. What he had not imagined, what had not even crossed his mind, was that life had prepared a hidden twist, one that would shake his world in ways both shocking and unforgettable. Emily cried out again, gripping his hand with renewed intensity, her face flushed with effort and emotion. The doctor gave her instructions in a firm but reassuring tone, telling her to push, reminding her that the hardest moment was nearly over. Daniel brushed sweat-damp hair from her forehead, his heart racing faster than it ever had before. The world seemed to narrow to the bed, the monitors, the sterile smell of antiseptic, and the sound of his wife's gasps. He could hardly breathe himself, caught between terror and joy. Then, at last, it happened. The wail of a newborn cut through the room like a clarion call, raw and piercing, yet filled with undeniable life. Tears sprang instantly to Daniel's eyes. He laughed nervously, overwhelmed, his body trembling as relief poured over him. Emily sobbed, both from pain and release, her hand falling weakly to her chest. The doctor lifted a tiny wriggling baby into the world, red and squirming, lungs filled with the primal cry of existence. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, smiling beneath the mask. Daniel felt his knees weaken as his heart seemed to swell beyond the confines of his chest. His daughter. He had a daughter. He kissed Emily's damp forehead, whispering, "You did it. She's here. We have her." Tears blurred his vision as he watched the nurse place the newborn into Emily's trembling arms. The look on her face, exhausted, radiant, stunned, etched itself into his memory forever. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Nothing existed except the three of them: mother, father, and child. Daniel's laughter bubbled up again, nervous and joyous, the release of all the months of waiting. He pressed his hands to his face, trying to steady himself. Then, overwhelmed with pride and eager to share the miracle, he said breathlessly, "I have to tell them. I have to call our parents." His words tumbled out too fast, his body already halfway to the door. Emily nodded weakly, clutching their baby, her eyes fixed on the tiny face pressed against her chest. Daniel kissed them both quickly, and then rushed out of the room, his emotions too explosive to contain. His footsteps echoed down the hallway as he pulled his phone from his pocket, hands shaking, ready to deliver the happiest news of his life. Inside the delivery room, however, something unexpected stirred. The doctor had not left Emily's side, nor had the nurses. They exchanged glances, subtle but charged, before one of them leaned closer to the doctor. Emily, lost in the haze of tears and exhaustion, barely noticed at first. She was consumed by the weight and warmth of her daughter, by the miracle nestled against her chest. But then she felt it, an unmistakable tightening, another wave of pain that stole her breath. Confusion flashed across her face. "Wait, what's happening?" she gasped, panic beginning to edge into her voice. The doctor's tone remained calm, though his eyes carried the gravity of surprise. "Emily," he said gently, "you need to push again. There's another baby." Her eyes widened in disbelief, her exhausted body stiffening. "Another? No! No, that's impossible. We were told there was only one." But the monitors and the urgency in the medical staff and movements told the truth more clearly than words ever could. Her body was not done. Her story was not finished. Against every assumption, against every ultrasound and appointment, another child was waiting, hidden until this very moment. The room, already electric, became a storm of astonishment and urgency. Emily's breath came in ragged gasps, torn between awe and fear. "Twins?" she whispered, the word almost foreign on her lips. Her tears flowed again. But this time they were tears of shock, of bewilderment, of something so immense she could hardly process it. "Push," the doctor urged, his tone insistent but calm. "Your second baby is ready." Emily cried out, her strength nearly spent, but some primal force surged within her. Her grip on the nurse's hand tightened, and with a scream that seemed to tear through the walls of the hospital, she bore down once more. The room filled again with sound, with urgency, with the indescribable rush of life demanding to be seen. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, another cry filled the air, higher, distinct, and yet just as fierce. A second newborn was lifted into the world, as unexpected as lightning on a clear day. The staff themselves laughed in disbelief, shaking their heads, astonished by nature's secrecy. Emily collapsed back onto the pillows, sobbing uncontrollably, her arms trembling as the nurse carefully placed the second baby beside the first. Two tiny miracles now lay against her, their cries overlapping in chaotic harmony. She stared at them, hardly able to breathe, her heart pounding in a rhythm of disbelief and wonder. "Two," she whispered. "Two babies. I have two." Tears blurred her vision as she kissed the tops of their fragile heads, laughter bubbling up through her sobs. The emotions were too vast for her body to contain. Exhaustion, shock, joy, fear, love, all of it crashed through her like waves, leaving her trembling and radiant. At that very moment, the door swung open again. Daniel burst back into the room, breathless and glowing with exhilaration. "They know! Everyone knows! They're so excited! I told them she's here, our daughter." His words cut off abruptly as his eyes fell on the scene before him. There was Emily, his wife, holding not one, but two babies in her arms. His jaw dropped, the color drained from his face. The phone slipped from his hand, clattering loudly to the floor. For a heartbeat, he simply froze, unable to reconcile what he was seeing. His mind raced, stuttered, failed to catch up. His wife, radiant and tear-streaked, held two newborns pressed against her chest. He staggered forward, his lips parting soundlessly. What? How?" His voice cracked with disbelief. He looked from one baby to the other, then back at Emily, his eyes wide, his breath shallow. Emily laughed through her tears, a wild, nervous laugh that shook her shoulders. "Twins," she managed between sobs. "Daniel, we have twins." The room erupted into laughter as the nurses exchanged knowing smiles, some of them wiping tears from their eyes. Even the doctor allowed himself a grin, shaking his head at the extraordinary turn of events. But Daniel stood rooted, his hands trembling, his brain fighting to catch up with reality. "Twins?" he whispered, the word catching in his throat. No, that can't. How did—" He pressed his hands to his face, pulling them away again as if the vision might vanish, but it didn't vanish. It only grew more real with every heartbeat, every cry, every tear rolling down his wife's cheeks. He stumbled closer, finally lowering himself to the side of the bed, his hands hovering helplessly. Emily shifted, carefully offering one of the babies toward him. With movements as if handling glass, he cradled the tiny bundle in his arms, staring down at the wrinkled face, the impossibly small fingers. His tears spilled freely now, dropping onto the blanket. "They're real," he whispered hoarsely. "Both of them are real." Emily nodded, her laughter breaking again into sobs. "I didn't believe it either," she said. "But look at them. They were hiding all along." The room quieted as the staff finished their work, leaving the new parents cocooned in the wonder of their unexpected family. Daniel bent his head, pressing a trembling kiss to the baby in his arms, then leaned closer to kiss the one against Emily's chest. He looked at his wife, his eyes brimming with love and disbelief. "I left the room," he said with a stunned laugh, "and I came back a father of two." Emily laughed with him, the sound shaky but joyous, echoing the surreal truth of their story. The exhaustion of labor weighed on her body, but her heart soared with a love too vast to name. She pulled Daniel closer, the three of them forming a fragile, perfect circle of life and love. Outside in the waiting room, family members eagerly awaited news, still believing in the story Daniel had told them only minutes before. They thought they knew what had happened. They thought a single baby had been born. None of them yet knew that within the walls of that delivery room, a miracle had doubled itself, reshaping the future in an instant. In the days and weeks that followed, the story of the last-minute twins would be told and retold, each time with laughter, tears, and disbelief. It would become the tale that defined their family, the twist of fate that no one could have foreseen. And every time Daniel recounted it, he would shake his head, smile through tears, and say, "I left the room a father of one, and came back to find two." Because sometimes life hides its greatest surprises until the very last moment, reminding us that joy can be doubled in the blink of an eye, that love expands to fit the unexpected, and that the most unforgettable stories are the ones no one sees coming.